Hey everyone, welcome to this week's video. Today we are talking about the ABCs of starting keto. Hey everyone!
Hey everyone!
Welcome back to this week's video at Pop Keto, and today we are talking about the ABCs of starting keto.
So you may have been looking into keto and maybe doing a bit of reading or watching some YouTube videos and just doing some research and looking to see if keto is right for you. So today we want to give you some quick ABC tips on what you should be looking out for when starting a keto diet.
Hey, if you've been watching our videos, we want to say thank you to all the people who have subscribed to us so far. If you haven't subscribed, why not? Click on that subscribe button that's floating around on the screen, and there's also, you can just click on the Pop Keto logo down below. All right, two quick things before we get started into the ABCs. Number one, there is actually one thing that's a little bit dangerous about starting keto, and we want to make sure you know about that before we go. So we've got that at the end. Number two, we are just speaking about this from our own experience and from our own personal research. If you have a medical condition or you need to speak to a professional about whether this is good for you, please do so. All right, let's get into it.
A, avoid these foods.
And there's four things that we want to say to avoid.
Yeah.
Fruit, grains, starchy vegetables, and just flat out sugar.
Starting off with fruit, you would think actually fruit isn't that meant to be healthy, but fruit is very high in fructose. So generally you do need to lay off the fruit. Now, at times you can have some berries such as blackberries, raspberries, blueberries, but even then you just sort of still have to just take it a bit easy.
Yeah. And then the next one being grains, so your wheat and your rice is probably the two biggest ones, but pretty much most of the stuff that fits into that grain category. It's got starch in it. Starch converts to sugar. Sugar is what we're avoiding on keto. So another of the four that we put in the avoid category is starchy vegetables. Now these are most vegetables underground, and same as for the grains, the starches convert to sugar. We're avoiding sugars.
Yeah, so that includes things like potatoes. I think that's probably one of the big ones.
That's a big one,
yeah. So unfortunately, potatoes. And finally, sugar. I know we all know this. Sugar is the big one to avoid. But sugar is in everything. So as we've talked about in previous videos, we've talked about sugar being hidden in lots and lots of processed foods, especially, but even in things you may not realize, things like your salad dressings and various things like that. So again, be reading the labels to avoid the sugars.
All right, so that's A. That's the things to avoid when you're starting keto. So let's move to B. B, we're going to call buy the right foods.
So the first and obvious is to be buying whole foods. So we want to make sure we're getting the fresh food. As they say, fresh is best. So go for all the leafy greens, the cruciferous vegetables. Think about your salads, but there is actually loads of options.
Absolutely. And meat is another one that you want to try and get as fresh and as whole as you can. Fatty meats are going to be best. So your fatty minces, your pork, and some fish is really good fatty as well. So salmon is brilliant. Mackerel's another good fatty fish. They're the sorts of things that you want to be getting as whole foods.
Yeah. And if you can get grass-fed, or if you can get wild caught fish, that's even better. Another one of the foods that is good to buy on a keto diet is eggs. Now we do eat a lot of eggs. So yeah, we do love our eggs. It's funny when we get down to our last 24, our 24 eggs, and we think, oh my goodness, we're nearly out. But no, we love our eggs, and they are really good for you. So again, you can do a bit of research into the health benefits of eggs.
Couple more quick things. Some dairy. Now, some dairy is better than other dairy, like for example, just flat out milk. Even if it is whole fat milk, it's probably still got a high carb content in it, so just keep an eye on that. But some of the better dairy elements for you are ghee, which is pretty much straight fat, which is great. Some Greek yogurt is good for you.
Just making sure again that the sugar is as low as possible.
Yes, Greek yogurt, not Greek style yogurt. There is a difference between them, and we're obviously not looking at anything with flavoring in it. No berries, no honey, no vanilla. They all have sweeteners in them.
Yeah. But if you can also get something like goat cheese, or I think there's sheep. Sheep cheese as well. So things like that as well, you can could be better options than going for your traditional cow dairy
thing.
So when you're looking at buying your foods, especially if you are exploring the dairy option, make sure that you're not buying fat-free.
Yes.
That is not your friend. Fat is better for you on a number of levels, but when it's fat-free, generally it's got more sugar, so that is definitely the option to avoid.
I know we've talked about vegetables and moved on, but if I can go back just for a sec, don't be afraid with frozen vegetables. There's a lot of good frozen vegetables that you can get, which is just the veggies frozen. And if you think it's going to be helpful for you to have a few on hand in case a situation comes up that you need to cook something quickly, that's absolutely fine to do. And the last one we'll throw into this buy the right food section is pink Himalayan salt. It's got lots of minerals in it that normal salt doesn't have, and it may help you reduce cramping, which could come up when you're starting keto. I know it did for me. Okay, so that's B. We're moving on in the alphabet to C, and we couldn't decide whether we were going to call this calculate your macros or count your carbs, because they're both really important when you're starting keto. Calculating your macros, there's a few places that you can do that. Some apps have it, and we'll talk about apps in just a sec. But there are also a couple of websites, which I'm going to put links down to in the comments section, and you can go there to calculate what your macros need to be when you're starting keto. You're looking at getting your energy mainly from fat, so it's about 70-75% of what you're eating, the energy is coming from fat, 20 to 25% from protein, and only 5 or so percent of your energy from carbs.
So to make sure that you are aligned with your macro goals, it's important to track your foods. So the best way to do this is to use an app to track what foods make up these macro percentages. So I think we prefer mainly MyFitnessPal.
Yeah, but there's also Carb Manager.
Yeah.
Carb Manager also has a macro calculator in it, so that's good if you need that as well.
Yep, so that's right. So you're just going to be disciplined really just to put the food in as you're eating it. So it's really easy to use. You can just scan the barcode and just say how much you've eaten at that point in time, and it gives you a good snapshot of basically what you've eaten and the macro, and I guess it's easy to see if you are on track from there.
Yeah, so that's C. Count your carbs, calculate your macros.
All right, so we have the ABCs for you. Now we do actually have a couple of more we just want to throw in there for you. So let's go to D, which is drink more water.
So one of the signs that your body is going into ketosis can be that you're a bit more thirsty than normal. So feel free to drink as much as your body needs you to. You're also going to expel a lot of liquid at the start of the diet, and you're going to need to replace that. Also, while you're expelling liquid, you're going to be losing a lot of electrolytes. So a lot of people have an electrolyte drink, maybe 1 or 2 a day.
Another thing you can do is actually just pop in some Himalayan salt into water as well. So that's also another good option.
All right, so the last one of our ABCs and D and E is the letter E, and for that we're going to say expect the keto flu.
Yeah, that's right. So if you've been on a sugar diet all your life, it's going to be a case of I guess it's withdrawal symptoms, really. It's where your body's been used to glucose being the energy source, the fuel source for your body, for your energy. And so as that depletes, your body then will switch over to fat burning. And that's just what happens when your body becomes fat adapted.
So a couple of the symptoms of keto flu can include headaches, just feeling a bit lacking energy. A
little bit fluey. I mean, hence keto flu. I guess you're feeling a little bit fluey, low energy. Cramping, muscle cramping, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
So it's really just something you need to push through. It's worth it.
So that is the ABCs and D&E. And but we do actually want to let you know about something that is actually quite potentially dangerous if you're not aware of it. And I know when people start diets, sometimes you can do a bit of dabbling. So with keto, it's quite dangerous to keep a high carb diet and incorporate that with a high fat diet. So you really need to, if you're starting keto, you need to really go all in and make sure that if you are doing high fat, that you do lower the carbs.
Yeah, if you're probably coming from just a standard Western type of diet, probably eating a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods, having a high amount of processed food, high amount of carbs, and then adding high amounts of fats, there's no one who'll tell you that that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, that's not good. So the key thing on a ketogenic diet, when you are eating high fat, you're in the fat burning state. So it's a very different thing. But to get into that state, the carbs do need to be lowered. Yeah. So we hope that these tips have helped you, that it's given given you something to think about, to go away and research to see if the keto diet is right for you.
Hey, if you've liked this video, we'd appreciate it if you hit the thumbs up. And if there's something that we've missed or something that you'd like us to cover, we'd really like these videos to be useful for you. Please put something down in the comments and we'll work on it. We'll see it and respond as best we can. So thanks very much, everyone, and we'll see you next video.
Bye.
Bye.